Her hand froze over the contract. Paragraph 17, buried where no one looks. The clause that would steal everything he'd built. Mariano Caruso, the most dangerous man in the city, was 30 seconds from bankruptcy. And his maid was the only one who saw it coming. She had two choices: stay invisible like she'd done for 6 years, or speak up and become a target. "Sir," she whispered, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Don't sign that." His pen stopped mid-air. And the Mafia boss finally looked up at the woman who'd been cleaning his floors, the law school dropout who just saved his empire. But saving him was the easy part. What came next would either destroy them both, or change everything they thought they knew about power, trust, and love. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you are hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments section where you are watching from, because tomorrow I'll be giving you an interesting story such as this one and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Loveth Bennett moved through the penthouse like a shadow, efficient, invisible, expected. The vacuum hummed its monotonous song across Italian marble as golden afternoon light sliced through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a world she cleaned but would never own. She didn't mind. Not anymore. 6 years ago, she'd minded. 6 years ago, she'd been 3 semesters from a law degree at Georgetown, her name on the dean's list, her future a bright, inevitable thing. Then her mother's hospital bills came. Then her brother's bail. Then the choice: finish school or keep her family afloat. She'd chosen them. And here she was, 28, brilliant, and dusting the bookshelves of a man who probably didn't know her last name. Through the cracked office door, she saw him. Mariano sat behind his desk, mid-30s, sharp-jawed, dark eyes that missed nothing, except apparently the knife at his back. Across from him, 2 men in expensive suits. Marcello, slick and smiling, and another she didn't recognize. Lawyer, probably. Too clean for muscle. Papers spread between them. Contracts. Dense multi-page, the kind that changed lives. "This merges our operations," Marcello said, smooth as poison. "You maintain control of day-to-day. We consolidate resources. Everybody wins." Mariano scanned the first page. His jaw tightened. Revenue split? 60-40. You keep the lion's share. And decision-making authority? Jointly approved. But you're the face, Mariano. Nothing changes. Liar. Loveth didn't need to see the contract to know. She'd heard that tone before. Law professors explaining predatory clauses to first years as cautionary tales. This is how they take everything while making you think you're winning. Mariano reached for his pen. Her heart lurched. It's not your place. He's not your client. You're the help. But 6 years of silence had not erased what she knew. And what she knew was this: men like Marcello didn't offer mergers. They offered traps. She picked up the coffee tray from the hallway table, her excuse, her armor, and knocked softly. "Not now," Mariano said, not looking up. She opened the door anyway. Entered. Set the tray down with steady hands that belied the riot in her chest. "Your coffee, sir." Marcello glanced at her, dismissed her in a blink. The lawyer didn't even look up. But Mariano did. For the first time in 6 months of employment, his eyes met hers, really met them, and she saw it: exhaustion. The weight of an empire balanced on distrust and will. He was brilliant in his way, she knew. Ruthless. Strategic. But legal documents? That wasn't his battlefield. She poured his coffee. Her hands brushed the contract's edge. Her eyes darted down. Paragraph 4. No. Paragraph 9. Wait. There. Paragraph 17. Subsection C. In the event of joint decision-making deadlock, controlling interest shall transfer to the party of the second part. Transfer. Not revert. Not mediate. Transfer. Her breath caught. If they disagreed on anything, Marcello's people took control. Permanently. It wasn't a merger. It was a hostile takeover wrapped in a handshake. Mariano's pen hovered over the signature line. And Loveth did something she'd sworn she'd never do again. She spoke. "Sir." Her voice, barely a whisper. "Don't sign that." The room went silent. Mariano's pen stopped. His eyes lifted, sharp, cold, annoyed. "Excuse me." Marcello's smile faltered. The lawyer looked up, finally noticing her. She swallowed. Felt her career, her safety, her invisibility slipping away. But she'd spent 6 years erasing herself. Maybe it was time to matter. Paragraph 17, she said, clearer now. Subsection C. You should read it. If you were in Loveth's position, invisible, powerless, but holding the one piece of truth that could change everything, would you stay silent or risk it all? Drop your answer below. I'm curious what you'd do. The silence stretched like a blade between ribs, sharp, cold, unforgiving. Mariano's pen hung suspended in air, his signature half-formed, incomplete. His eyes, dark, calculating, lethal, fixed on Loveth with the kind of attention that made seasoned criminals confess. She felt her pulse hammering against her throat, but she didn't look away. She couldn't. Marcello laughed first. A short, dismissive bark. "Mariano, really? Your maid is giving you legal advice now." The lawyer smirked, flipping pages with manicured fingers. "Sir, I assure you, every clause has been vetted by our team. This is standard merger language." "Hate." Paragraph 17, Loveth repeated, her voice steadier than she felt. Subsection C. Read it out loud. "That's enough." Marcello stood, his smile gone. "You're out of line. Mariano, get your help under control before." "Sit." Mariano's voice cut through the room like a guillotine. He didn't raise it. Didn't need to. Marcello sat. Mariano's gaze hadn't left Loveth. "You have 30 seconds. Use them wisely." Her mouth went dry. Every instinct screamed to apologize, retreat, disappear back into the safety of invisibility. But she'd seen the clause. She'd studied corporate takeovers in Professor Chen's class, stayed up nights memorizing the exact language predators used to steal companies from under their owners. This was textbook. She stepped closer to the desk, her finger trembling as she pointed to the paragraph. "Here. In the event of joint decision-making deadlock, controlling interest shall transfer to the party of the second part." She looked up, met his eyes. Not revert. Not pause. Transfer. Permanently. Mariano's jaw tightened. He pulled the contract closer, scanning the words she'd indicated. "That's just standard deadlock protocol," the lawyer interjected smoothly. "In any partnership, there needs to be a mechanism to steal his company." Loveth's voice came out harder than intended. 6 years of biting her tongue, of nodding and smiling and swallowing her worth. It cracked open now like a dam. The party of the second part isn't Mariano. It's them. Marcello's group. And the deadlock threshold. She flipped 2 pages back, found it. Any decision requiring joint approval, which according to Section 9 includes hiring, firing, territory expansion, revenue allocation, and operational strategy. She looked at Mariano. They engineered a deadlock. Then they take everything. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Mariano read. Then reread. His knuckles whitened against the paper's edge. Marcelo's composure cracked. She's misreading it. That clause is protective for both parties. Both parties. Mariano's voice was ice. Except I'm party of the first part. Which means in a deadlock I lose. He looked up, and Loveth saw something flicker behind his eyes. Not anger. Worse. Betrayal. How long have we known each other, Marcelo? Mariano, listen. 12 years. Mariano stood slowly, and even Loveth took an involuntary step back. I brought you in when you had nothing. Made you my second. Trusted you with my life. He tapped the contract. And you bring me this? The lawyer stood hastily. Mr. Caruso, if you'd just let us explain the full structure. Get out. Sir, we can clarify. Get out. The words didn't rise in volume. They didn't need to. Marcelo and the lawyer exchanged glances. Panic, calculation, damage control spinning behind their eyes. Then Marcelo's face hardened. You're making a mistake, Mariano. My clients don't like rejection. Then they'll learn to live with disappointment. Mariano's smile was a predator's. And Marcelo? Don't come back. Ever. Marcelo's face flushed red. He grabbed his briefcase, slammed it shut. You'll regret this. You think you're untouchable? You're not. And when you fall... His eyes slid to Loveth with pure venom. Remember, it was because you trusted the wrong person. He left. The lawyer scrambled after him. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the bookshelves. And then there were two. Loveth stood frozen, the adrenaline draining from her limbs and leaving only the cold reality. She just humiliated her employer's right-hand man. Exposed a betrayal. Stepped so far out of her lane she'd crossed into another dimension. You're fired. You have to be fired. But Mariano just stared at the contract. At paragraph 17. At the signature line he'd been seconds from completing. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Devastated. How did you see it? She hesitated. I went to law school. Georgetown. 3 years. She swallowed. I didn't finish. But I remembered. Corporate takeovers. The language they use. It was. She stopped, realizing she was babbling. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have interrupted. It wasn't my place. You just saved my life. He looked up, and for the first time since she'd started working there, she saw him. Not the Mafia boss. Not the untouchable legend. Just a man who'd nearly lost everything. Do you understand that? I was about to sign away 15 years of work. My entire empire. Everything. His voice cracked. One signature. Loveth's throat tightened. Sir, What's your name? She blinked. What? Your name. He stood, walked around the desk. Stopped 3 feet from her. Close enough she could see the exhaustion carved into his face, the shock still rippling through him. I've employed you for 6 months. And I don't know your name. Shame flooded his features. And something else. Something that looked like wonder. Loveth, she whispered. Loveth Bennett. He extended his hand. Thank you, Loveth Bennett. For seeing what I couldn't. For speaking when silence was safer. His hand hung in the air between them. An offering, an acknowledgement. Thank you for saving me. She stared at his hand. At the choice. Then she took it. His grip was warm. Firm. Human. And when their eyes met, something shifted. Something neither of them had words for yet. But they felt it. The spark. Loveth pulled her hand back first. The warmth of his grip lingered on her palm like evidence. Proof that for one reckless moment, she'd stepped into his world and he'd let her. But reality crashed back with the weight of 6 years' survival instinct. You're the maid. He's the boss. This doesn't happen. I should. She gestured vaguely toward the door, already retreating. I'll finish cleaning the east wing. And I'll forget I heard any of this. I promise. Wait. Mariano's voice stopped her mid-step. But when she turned, he was staring at the contract again, his jaw working. You said Georgetown. 3 years. Yes, sir. Why didn't you finish? The question landed like a punch she hadn't braced for. Lovetha's throat tightened. It's not important. It's important to me. Sir, please. How does someone who can spot corporate takeover language in 30 seconds end up cleaning my floors? His tone wasn't cruel. Worse, it was genuine. Confused. And underneath that, something that sounded like guilt. She couldn't answer. Wouldn't. Because if she told him about her mother's chemo bills, her brother's legal fees, the choice between her future and her family's survival, if she made herself that vulnerable, she'd shatter. And she'd worked too hard to hold herself together. I need to go, she whispered. This time, he didn't stop her. Loveth made it to the service hallway before her hands started shaking. She braced against the wall, sucking in air, trying to calm the earthquake rattling through her chest. What did you do? What did you just do? She'd exposed Marcello. Made an enemy of a man with connections, resources, and a taste for revenge. She'd embarrassed Mariano in front of his people. No, saved him, but still, stepped so far beyond her role that there was no stepping back. And the way he'd looked at her. She squeezed her eyes shut. No. Don't go there. Don't romanticize a moment of gratitude into something it wasn't. Men like Mariano Caruso didn't see women like her. They thanked them, maybe. Paid them well if they were generous. But saw them? That was a fairy tale. Her phone buzzed. Her brother, asking if she could cover his electric bill this month. She stared at the text, felt the familiar weight settle back onto her shoulders. This was real. Bills. Survival. Invisibility that kept her employed. Everything else was just a beautiful, dangerous mistake. Mariano stood alone in his office, the unsigned contract mocking him from his desk. How did you miss it? He'd built an empire on reading people, on seeing angles before they formed, on staying 3 moves ahead. And he'd nearly signed away everything because he was tired. Distracted. Trusting the wrong people. Trusting Marcello. The betrayal burned hotter than the near loss. 12 years. He'd brought Marcello up from street-level enforcement, taught him the business, given him power. And this was the repayment? A knife in the back wrapped in legal jargon? His phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again. Then again. Finally, he answered. What? It's Gio. His head of security. Marcello's making calls. Loud ones. Says you've lost your mind, that you're being manipulated by a pause. He called her a plant. Says she's probably working for the Romanos. Mariano's blood went cold. He said what? He's spinning it, boss. Says she appeared out of nowhere, fed you paranoid nonsense to blow up a good deal. Half your captains are asking questions. Questions about what? About whether she's trustworthy. About whether you are. Joe's voice lowered. You humiliated Marcello in front of a lawyer and took the word of your cleaning lady over his. People are confused. And confused people get dangerous. Mariano's grip tightened on the phone. The contract was a takeover. She was right. I believe you, boss. But I'm not the one you need to convince. Marcello's got history with these guys. Respect. She's got. What? Say it. She's got nothing. No reputation, no name. Just your word that she's not playing you. Silence. Boss, I'm not saying she's dirty. I'm saying it looks bad. And in our world, looking bad gets people killed. Mariano hung up. Stared at the wall. At the books he'd bought but never read. At the empire he'd built on blood and will and the absolute certainty that he could trust his instincts. His instincts had nearly destroyed him today. And the one person who'd saved him? His own people were calling her a threat. He should fire her. For her safety and his. Clean break. Generous severance. Erase this complication before it became a crisis. But when he closed his eyes, he saw her face. The fear and courage warring in her eyes when she'd whispered, "Don't sign that." The way her hand had trembled pointing to paragraph 17. The genius buried under an apron because the world had given her no other choice. "What's your name?" He'd employed her for 6 months and never asked. What did that make him? His phone buzzed. A text from Tony, one of his captains. "We need to talk about your staff situation." Another from Gio, "Marcelo's meeting with the Castellanos tonight. Could be trying to make an alliance. Watch yourself." And one from an unknown number. "You made the wrong enemy. And you trusted the wrong woman." Mariano stared at the messages. At the battle lines forming. At the choice crystallizing in front of him. Protect himself. Or protect her. He couldn't do both. And the worst part? The most dangerous part? He wasn't sure which mattered more anymore. 2 floors below, Loveth packed her spare uniform into her bag. She'd learned to keep an emergency kit, clothes, documents, cash, in her locker. Just in case. Tonight felt like a just-in-case moment. She'd saved a Mafia boss from bankruptcy. And now, she suspected, she'd signed her own death warrant. The smart move was to disappear. Tonight. Before Marcelo's revenge found her. Before Mariano decided she was too much trouble to protect. She zipped the bag. Took one last look at the locker room that had been her base for 6 months. Then heard footsteps in the hall. Heavy. Multiple. Her heart stopped. The door opened. 3 men filled the doorway. Not Marcelo's people. Mariano's. She recognized Gio, head of security, his expression unreadable. The other 2 she'd seen around but never spoken to. "Miss Bennett." Joe's voice was professional. "Careful. Mr. Caruso wants to see you. Now." Her bag slipped from her fingers. "I was just... Now," he repeated. Not unkind, but firm. "And bring your things. This is it. You're being escorted out. Or worse." She picked up her bag with numb fingers and followed them through the service corridors, up the private elevator, into the heart of the penthouse she'd only ever cleaned. The inner sanctum where decisions were made and fates were sealed. Mariano stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, hands in his pockets, shoulders tight. He didn't turn when she entered. Gio closed the door. The lock clicked. She was alone with him again. "Sir, if this is about earlier. Marcelo's putting a target on you." Mariano's voice was flat. Matter of fact. "He's telling people you're a plant. A Romano spy sent to sabotage me." Finally, he turned. His eyes were tired. "In my world, accusations like that get people disappeared." The room tilted. Loveth gripped her bag tighter. "I'm not. I would never. I know." He moved toward his desk, picked up a file. "I had Gio run a background check. Full workup. Every detail of your life since birth." He opened it, scanned. Loveth Bennett. Born in Baltimore. Mother died 2 years ago. Cancer. Father's been gone since you were 8. Younger brother, Isaac, currently working construction in Delaware. He looked up. Georgetown Law, Dean's List, dropped out 3rd year when your mother got sick. Worked 3 jobs to cover her treatment. Then your brother got arrested, assault charge, defended a coworker from a racist manager, and you paid his legal fees. Her throat closed. Hearing her life summarized like evidence felt like being dissected. You've been cleaning houses for 6 years, Mariano continued. 4 different families before mine. Every reference glowing. Not a single red flag. No criminal record. No suspicious associations. He closed the file. You're exactly who you appear to be. Someone who sacrificed everything for family. Silence. So why am I here? She whispered. Because knowing you're innocent doesn't stop Marcelo from coming after you. And it doesn't stop my captains from questioning my judgment. He leaned against the desk. You're a liability now. Through no fault of your own. Then I'll leave. Tonight. I'll disappear and you can tell them No. The word cracked like a whip. You run. You confirm their suspicions. They'll hunt you down to prove a point. His jaw tightened. And I won't let that happen. Why? The question burst out before she could stop it. Why do you care? I'm just. Don't. His voice went soft. Dangerous. Don't diminish what you did. You saw through a betrayal my entire organization missed. You risked your safety to save me. He stepped closer. That's not just anything. Her heart hammered. So what do? We finish what you started. He gestured to his desk, where the contract lay scattered alongside 3 other thick documents. Marcelo wasn't working alone. These are deals he negotiated over the past 6 months. Partnerships, acquisitions, territory agreements. I need to know if they're clean or if I'm sitting on more traps. She stared at the mountain of legal paperwork. You want me to review them? I need someone I can trust. Someone with the skills to catch what everyone else missed. His eyes held hers. I need you. The weight of those words settled between them, heavier than contracts, sharper than any clause. I'm not a lawyer, she said weakly. I never passed the bar. I never even finished. You're smarter than half the lawyers I've paid 6 figures to. He pulled out a chair. And right now, you're the only person in this building I trust completely. Loveth looked at the chair. At the documents. At the impossible choice. Walk away and spend her life looking over her shoulder, or step fully into the fire and hope she didn't burn. She set down her bag. Saturday. Where do we start? Relief flickered across Mariano's face. Brief, vulnerable, quickly masked. He grabbed the first contract, pulled up a chair beside her. Close enough she could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from his body. This one. Partnership with the Castellano family. Marcelo pushed hard for it. Said it was our entry into the port trade. Loveth took the document, forcing herself to focus on words instead of the way his presence filled the space beside her. She flipped to the signature page, then back to the terms. Her eyes widened. When did you sign this? 3 weeks ago. Why? She pointed to a clause buried on page 9. This gives them first right of refusal on any shipments you process, meaning they can block your deals whenever they want. She kept reading, her pulse quickening. And this, Section 14, you're liable for any irregularities in cargo, even if you didn't pack it. They could plant evidence and bury you in federal charges. Mariano's face went pale. How deep does this go? She grabbed the next contract. Then the next. Hours blurred. Coffee appeared at some point. Geo, silent, observing. The city lights outside dimmed as midnight approached, then brightened again toward dawn. And with each document, the picture became clearer. Marcello hadn't just betrayed him. He'd been systematically dismantling Mariano's empire for months, trap by trap, clause by clause. 7 contracts, Loveth finally said, her voice hoarse. All compromised. Together they would've destroyed me. Mariano rubbed his face. Given my enemies leverage, legal exposure, financial control. He laughed bitterly. And I signed most of them without a second thought. You trusted him. I was a fool. You were loyal. She met his eyes. That's not the same thing. Something passed between them in that moment. An understanding deeper than words. 2 people who'd given everything to the wrong people and paid the price. Mariano reached across the table. His hand covered hers. I can't undo the past. But I can protect you now. You'll stay here, in the guest wing. Joe's team will keep you safe while we figure out how to handle Marcello. I can't just move in. You already did. He gestured to her bag, still by the door. The second you spoke up, you became part of this. And I don't abandon people who save me. His thumb brushed her knuckles, probably unconscious, but it sent electricity up her arm. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Trust is the hardest thing to rebuild once it's broken. Mariano trusted the wrong person and nearly lost everything. Have you ever had to decide whether to trust someone again after betrayal? What made you choose? Let me know in the comments. The guest wing was nicer than any place Loveth had ever lived. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline. A king-sized bed dominated the space, dressed in linens that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The bathroom had heated floors and a shower with 6 heads. Everything gleamed with the kind of wealth that didn't just buy comfort. It bought distance from the world's sharp edges. She stood in the center of it, still holding her pathetic duffel bag, and felt the absurdity crash over her. 48 hours ago, she'd been the invisible help. Now she was a protected guest in a Mafia boss's home, reviewing his contracts, sleeping in luxury. This isn't real. It can't last. A knock interrupted her spiral. She opened the door to find Mariano holding 2 plates of food. Gio reminded me that neither of us has eaten in 14 hours. He lifted the plates. May I? She stepped aside. He entered, set the food on the small table by the window. Pasta. Something with cream sauce and herbs that smelled like heaven. You didn't have to. I did. He pulled out a chair for her. An actual gentleman's gesture that felt both strange and natural coming from him. You've been working all night. For me. It's the least I can do. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. The pasta was perfect. The view was breathtaking. And Loveth felt the exhaustion of 6 years catching up with her all at once. Can I ask you something? Mariano's voice was quiet. Earlier, you said you didn't finish law school because it wasn't important. But that wasn't true, was it? She set down her fork. No. Will you tell me what happened? Every instinct said to deflect. To keep her pain private. But sitting here in this surreal moment, with this man who'd somehow seen her when no one else had, lying felt wrong. My mom got diagnosed in the spring of my 3rd year, she began, staring at her plate. Stage 4 ovarian cancer. Aggressive. The treatments were experimental, not covered by insurance. Someone had to work. My brother was only 19, barely keeping himself together. She swallowed hard. So I withdrew. Told myself it was temporary. That I'd go back once she recovered. But she didn't. No. 2 years of treatments that bought her time but not enough. Loveth's voice cracked. She died believing I'd given up my dreams for nothing. That she'd stolen my future. That's not what happened. Isn't it? She finally looked up, and the tears she'd been holding back for years threatened to spill. I had one shot. One chance to be more than what the world expected from me. And I lost it. You didn't lose anything. Mariano leaned forward, his voice fierce. You chose. There's a difference. You chose your mother. Your family. That's not weakness, that's strength most people don't have. Strength doesn't pay bills. Doesn't finish degrees. Doesn't. She stopped, shook her head. I'm sorry. You didn't ask for my sob story. I asked for your truth. He reached across the table, hesitated, then gently took her hand. And your truth is that you're brilliant. Loyal. Brave enough to sacrifice everything for the people you love. His thumb traced her knuckles. The world didn't see it. But I do. The tears spilled over. She tried to pull away, embarrassed, but he held on. My turn, he said quietly. You shared. Now I will. She wiped her eyes. You don't have to. I was 7 when my father died. Killed over a $50 debt he couldn't pay. Mariano's jaw tightened. My mother cleaned houses, like you, working herself to bone to keep me fed. I watched her scrub floors for people who didn't bother learning her name, who treated her like she was less than human. Loveth's heart squeezed. When I was 16, she collapsed at work. Stroke. The family she worked for called an ambulance, then fired her for the inconvenience. His voice went cold. She died 3 days later. And I decided right there. I would never be powerless again. Never let anyone I loved be invisible again. So you built an empire. I built a cage. He met her eyes. I accumulated power, money, respect. All the things I thought mattered. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing people. Stopped trusting anyone. Became exactly what I hated. Someone who looks through people instead of at them. His grip on her hand tightened. Until yesterday, when my maid saved my life and reminded me what I'd forgotten. What's that? That real strength isn't power. It's vulnerability. It's people like you who risk everything for what's right, even when it costs them. He smiled sadly. It's everything I stopped being. Silence stretched between them, not awkward, but full. Heavy with shared pain and recognition. Why didn't you ever ask my name? The question slipped out. In 6 months. Shame flickered across his face. Because if I learned your name, you became real. And if you became real, I'd have to face what I'd become. Someone who employed a brilliant woman to clean his floors because I never bothered to see who she was. He looked away. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stayed invisible on purpose, she admitted. It was safer. Easier. I convinced myself I didn't deserve to be seen anymore. You deserve everything. His voice was raw. Honest. And I want to help you get it. Law school. The bar. Whatever you need. I'll make it happen. Why? She whispered. Because you saved me. And because... He stopped, seemed to wrestle with something. Because for the first time in 15 years, I feel like I'm looking at someone who sees me. Not the boss. Not the legend. Just me. Loveth's breath caught. The air between them shifted. Charged. Dangerous. Inevitable. Mariano. I know. He stood abruptly, breaking the moment. You should rest. Tomorrow we deal with Marcelo. Tonight you're safe. He moved toward the door. Stopped. Looked back. Thank you, Loveth. For trusting me with your story. Thank you for asking. He left. And Loveth sat alone in her beautiful borrowed room, feeling something she hadn't felt in 6 years. Seen. And terrifyingly, wonderfully, she realized she was starting to feel something else too. Something that could shatter everything. Or save them both. Morning arrived with golden light and the smell of coffee. Loveth woke disoriented. Sheets too soft, ceiling too high, silence too complete. Then yesterday crashed back. The contract, the confrontation, the night spent unraveling betrayal with a man who was supposed to be her employer but had somehow become something else entirely. She showered, dressed in the spare clothes Joe's team had retrieved from her apartment, that felt invasive and thoughtful in equal measure, and followed the coffee scent to Mariano's office. He was already there, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly disheveled, the most human she'd ever seen him. 3 computer screens glowed with financial records. Legal pads covered in his sharp handwriting littered the desk. "You're up." He looked up, and something warm flickered in his eyes. "I was about to check on you." "I'm fine." She moved closer, scanning the screens. "What's all this?" "Damage control. I'm isolating Marcello's deals, figuring out how to unwind them without triggering the traps." He rubbed his face. "It's a mess." He was thorough. "Let me help." "You've done enough." "Mariano." She used his first name without thinking, and they both felt the shift. "You're brilliant at strategy, at reading people. But this." She gestured to the legal maze. "This is what I'm good at. Let me do what I'm good at." A smile tugged at his mouth. Genuine, unguarded. "Okay, counselor. Show me what you've got." They worked through the morning, side by side. Loveth explained liability shields, corporate structures, ways to restructure deals without defaulting. Mariano absorbed everything, asked sharp questions, challenged her assumptions in ways that made her sharper. It felt like law school again. The thrill of solving puzzles, of using her mind for something that mattered. Except better, because Mariano didn't just tolerate her intelligence. He celebrated it. "Wait." She grabbed his arm without thinking, stopping him mid-sentence. "Say that again." "Which part?" "About the port contract. You said Castellano demanded monthly percentages, not flat fees." "Right. Marcello said it was standard." "It's not." Her mind raced. Percentage-based fees mean they have access to your books. They can audit your operations any time. She pulled up the contract, scanned frantically. And if they find discrepancies, which could mean anything, they can trigger a breach clause that, her eyes widened. "Oh my God. What?" "They can seize collateral. Your properties. This building." She looked at him. "Mariano, this contract gives them legal grounds to take your home." The color drained from his face. Then he laughed, not from humor, but from sheer disbelief. "Marcello really wanted me destroyed. We can fight it. There are loopholes, technicalities we can exploit." "I know." He turned to her, and his expression made her breath catch. "Because I have you." The gratitude in his voice felt like sunlight after years of cold. "We make a good team," she said softly. "Yeah." His eyes held hers. "We really do." A knock shattered the moment. Gio entered, carrying bags of takeout. "Lunch." "And boss, you have a call in 20. The accountant needs to discuss the Castellano audit." Mariano groaned. "I'll take it in the conference room." He stood, then paused. "Loveth, take a break. Eat something." "That's an order." She saluted mockingly. "Yes, sir." His laugh followed him out the door. Gio set the food on the coffee table. "Chinese, the good kind." He pulled up a chair across from her, his expression unreadable. "You're wondering if I'm legitimate," Loveth said, meeting his gaze. "If I'm playing him." Joe's eyebrow raised. "Smart. I'm not. Everything I told him is true. Everything I found in those contracts is real." She leaned forward. "Your boss nearly lost everything. And I stopped it. That's all this is it?" Joe's voice was careful. "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like more." Heat crept up her neck. "I don't know what you—" He laughs around you. Real laughs, not the calculated ones he uses in meetings. Joe's expression softened. "In 15 years, I've never seen him let someone in. Not like this. Not this fast. We're just working together." "Sure." Gio stood. "But for what it's worth, I ran that background check. I know who you are. What you sacrificed. And I think—" He hesitated. "I think you might be exactly what he needs. Someone who sees him, not his power." He left before she could respond. Loveth sat alone with her cooling Chinese food and her rioting thoughts. Because Gio was right. Something was growing between them, undeniable, terrifying, completely inappropriate. She was his employee. He was a mafia boss. Their worlds didn't overlap except in the space where she cleaned and he commanded. Except that wasn't true anymore. She'd stepped into his world. And he'd pulled her up beside him, not as the help, but as an equal. This is dangerous. This is impossible. But when Mariano returned an hour later, stressed from his call, and she made a joke about accountants being scarier than mobsters, and his whole face transformed with laughter. When he ordered dinner and insisted they eat together, not at his desk but at the table, like humans. When he asked about her brother, really asked, and listened to her stories about Isaac's terrible cooking and worse jokes with genuine interest. When the city lights came on outside and he said, "I haven't enjoyed a day this much in years," and she realized she felt exactly the same. When their hands brushed reaching for the same document and neither pulled away immediately. She stopped lying to herself. This wasn't just gratitude. Wasn't just partnership. This was connection. Real, raw, the kind that made you believe in second chances and impossible futures. And from the way Mariano looked at her, like she was precious, like she mattered, like she was the first real thing in his carefully constructed world. He felt it too. "Loveth." His voice was quiet. They were sitting close now, the documents forgotten. "I need to tell you something." Her heart hammered. "Okay. I don't know how this happened. How you went from invisible to essential in 2 days. But He stopped, searching for words. "You make me want to be better. To be the man I was before I built these walls. And that terrifies me." "Why?" "Because people I care about get hurt. Because my world is dangerous. Because you deserve law school and a real future. Not," he gestured helplessly, "this." She reached out, cupped his face. The boldness shocked them both. "What if I want this?" she whispered. His eyes darkened. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly what I'm saying." Her thumb brushed his cheekbone. "I've been invisible for 6 years. And you see me. You make me feel like I matter. Like I'm allowed to take up space again." "You've always mattered." "Not like this." She smiled. "Not to someone who looks at me the way you do." "And how do I look at you?" "Like I'm not broken. Like I'm enough exactly as I am." Mariano's hand covered hers against his face. "You're more than enough. You're—" His voice cracked. "You're everything I didn't know I was missing." The space between them dissolved. His forehead touched hers. Neither moved, both barely breathing, suspended in the impossible moment before everything changed. This is crazy, she whispered. Completely. We barely know each other. I know enough. Your world can adapt. His hand slid to her waist, gentle but sure. If you're brave enough to be in it. I saved you once already. I think I'm brave enough for anything. His smile was devastating. Then let me do something I should have done the moment you walked into my life. What's that? Stop being afraid of wanting you. And he kissed her. The kiss was everything. Gentle and desperate, tentative and certain. Mariano's hand cradled her face like she was something precious, breakable, worth protecting. Lovatha's fingers tangled in his shirt, pulling him closer, erasing the distance that had always existed between maid and master, invisible and seen. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Mariano rested his forehead against hers. I shouldn't have done that, he whispered. But you did. I'm your employer. This is. Stop. She pulled back, meeting his eyes. Don't take it back. Don't make it wrong. It's not wrong. That's what scares me. His thumb traced her cheek. You could have any life you want. Loveth. Law school, a real career. You don't need to tie yourself to. The door exploded open. 4 men stormed in, Mariano's captains, led by Tony, his face twisted with fury. Gio rushed in behind them, trying to intercede. Boss, we need to talk. Now. Tony's eyes flicked to Loveth with pure contempt. Alone. Mariano stood, positioning himself between them and Loveth. Whatever you have to say it here. Fine. Tony threw a folder onto the desk. Photos spilled out, surveillance images of Loveth at her apartment, at the grocery store, talking to someone in a coffee shop. Marcelo sent these. Says your new consultant has been meeting with Romano's people. Lovatha's blood turned to ice. That's my brother, she said, pointing to one photo. Isaac. He works construction. That coffee shop is near his job site. Convenient story. Another captain, Sal, crossed his arms. Marcelo warned us. Said she'd have explanations for everything. Because they're true. Lovatha's voice rose. Gio ran my background. He knows. Background checks can be fabricated. Tony stepped closer. What we know is this. You appear out of nowhere, blow up a deal Marcelo spent months negotiating, isolate the boss, and now you're in his private quarters? He looked at Mariano. Does that sound like coincidence to you? It sounds like you're believing a traitor over me, Mariano said coldly. We're trying to protect you. Tony slammed his hand on the desk. Marcelo may have crossed a line, but he's been loyal for 12 years. She's been here 6 months. And now you're defending her over your own men. She saved my empire. Or she's destroying it from the inside. Sal moved forward. Boss, you're not thinking clearly. This woman, she's got you twisted up. Making you paranoid. Turning you against your own people. Get out. Mariano's voice was lethal. Not until you see reason. Tony pulled out another photo, this one of Loveth and Mariano, close together over documents. Someone had been watching them. This is what it looks like from the outside. A maid manipulating her boss. Taking advantage. Taking advantage? Lovatha's voice shook with rage. I risked my life to warn him. I spent hours unraveling the mess your precious Marcelo created. Or you created problems to make yourself indispensable. Tony's smile was cruel. Smart play, actually. Find a desperate man, stroke his ego, make him think he needs you. His eyes slid to Mariano. And once you're in his bed, you own him. Mariano moved so fast Loveth barely saw it. One moment Tony was standing. The next, Mariano had him by the throat, slammed against the wall. "Say another word about her," Mariano growled, "and I'll forget we ever called you family." "Boss," Gio tried to intervene. But the damage was done. The other captains moved forward, hands on weapons. The room crackled with violence barely restrained. "This is exactly what I'm talking about." Tony choked out. "She's made you weak. Emotional. You're choosing her over us." Mariano released him, breathing hard. "I'm choosing the person who had the courage to tell me the truth when everyone else stayed silent." "Then you're choosing wrong." Sal's voice was final. "Half the organization is with Marcelo. They're saying you're compromised. That this woman has you under her thumb." He paused. "Some are saying it's time for new leadership." The threat hung in the air. Heavy, unmistakable. Mariano went very still. "Is that a challenge?" "It's reality," Tony said, rubbing his throat. "You want to keep her? Fine. But you'll lose everything else. Your captains. Your territory. Your respect." He moved toward the door. "Choose, boss. Her or your empire. Because you can't have both." They left. The silence they left behind was deafening. Loveth felt the walls closing in. Everything she'd feared was coming true. She'd become the wedge splitting his world apart. "Mariano, don't." He turned away, shoulders rigid. "Just don't. This is my fault. If I hadn't spoken up, then I'd be bankrupt and you'd still be invisible." His voice was raw. "But at least we'd both be safe." The words hit like a slap. "What are you saying?" He finally turned, and the anguish in his eyes broke her heart. "I'm saying maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not thinking clearly. Maybe I'm risking everything for—" He stopped, couldn't finish. "For what?" "For me." Tears burned her eyes. "Say it, Mariano. Say I'm not worth it." "That's not." "Say it." Her voice cracked. "Because that's what you're thinking, isn't it? That keeping me around will cost you your empire. That I'm the problem that needs to be solved. You don't understand the pressure." "I understand perfectly." She grabbed her bag, the one she'd never fully unpacked because some part of her always knew this would happen. "I understand that when it matters, when you have to choose between me and your world, I lose. Just like I always do." "Loveth, wait." "No." She wiped her tears angrily. "You were right earlier. I deserve law school and a real future. Not this. Not waiting around for a man who can't decide if I'm worth fighting for. That's not fair." "Fair." She laughed bitterly. "I risked everything for you. My safety. My anonymity. My heart." Her voice broke. "And you're standing there calculating whether I'm worth the cost." "I'm trying to protect you." "By pushing me away?" "By believing you're men over me." She moved to the door. "I've been invisible my whole life, Mariano. I won't be invisible to you too." "Where will you go?" "Anywhere but here." She opened the door, paused. "For what it's worth. I don't regret saving you. I just regret believing I mattered enough for you to save me back." She left. And Mariano stood alone in his office, surrounded by the empire he'd chosen over the only person who'd ever made him feel like more than a crown and a cage. 3 days. 72 hours since Loveth walked out. 72 hours of Mariano mechanically managing his empire, meeting with captains, rebuilding trust with men who doubted him. 72 hours of feeling like he'd amputated part of himself. Gio found him on the 4th morning, staring at the unsigned Castellano contract, the one Loveth had saved him from. She's staying at a women's shelter downtown, Gio said quietly. Won't go back to her apartment. Thinks Marcelo might retaliate. Mariano's jaw clenched. Is she safe? My guys are watching. Discreetly. Gio paused. Boss, with respect. What the hell are you doing? What I have to. Which is what? Letting the best thing that ever happened to you walk away because Tony's got a big mouth. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Gio rarely raised his voice. He did now. I've watched you for 15 years. Seen you build this empire brick by bloody brick. And I've never seen you happy. Not until her. Happiness doesn't keep you alive in our world. No, but love does. Real love. The kind that makes you remember why you're fighting in the first place. Gio threw another folder on the desk. I did more digging. On Marcelo, on Tony, on everyone questioning your judgment. Mariano opened it. His blood ran cold. Bank transfers. Marcelo to Tony. Tony to Sal. A network of payments spanning months. They were planning this before Loveth ever opened her mouth, Gio said. Marcelo's been buying loyalty, positioning for a takeover. The contracts were just one piece. They needed you vulnerable. Isolated. He tapped the folder. And you're giving them exactly what they want by pushing her away. Mariano's hands shook. How long have you known? 2 days. Wanted to be sure before I brought it to you. Joe's voice softened. Boss, they're playing you. Making you think you have to choose between her and your empire. But the truth? You lose your empire either way. At least with her, you don't lose yourself. The words landed like bullets. Painful, necessary, true. Mariano thought about the last 3 days. The meetings where he'd agreed to things he normally wouldn't. The concessions he'd made to prove he wasn't compromised. The way Tony smiled a little too wide, like he'd won something. Then he thought about Loveth. Her courage. Her brilliance. The way she'd looked at him like he was more than his reputation. The way she'd whispered, "You make me feel like I matter," before he'd let his fear destroy it. "I'm an idiot," he said quietly. "Yes," Gio agreed. "But you can fix it. What if she won't forgive me? Then you grovel. You beg. You do whatever it takes." Gio smiled. "But knowing her? She will. Because unlike everyone else in your life, she actually loves you. Not your power. Not your money. You." Mariano stood, grabbed his jacket. "Where's the shelter?" "I'll drive." The women's shelter was modest, tucked between a laundromat and a corner store. Gio waited in the car while Mariano went inside, his heart thundering. The coordinator, a stern woman with kind eyes, looked him up and down skeptically. "You're here for Loveth Bennett. And you are someone who made a terrible mistake." He met her gaze. "Please. I need to see her." Something in his face must have convinced her. She disappeared, returned 5 minutes later with Loveth trailing behind. Thinner, exhausted, but still the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Her eyes widened. "What are you doing here?" "Choosing you." His voice cracked. "I'm choosing you, Loveth. I should have done it 3 days ago. I should have told Tony and Sal and everyone else to go to hell, that you were worth more than all of them combined." "Mariano, let me finish. Please." He stepped closer. "I was scared. Terrified, actually. Because everyone I've ever cared about has been taken from me. My father, my mother, anyone who got too close. And you? You got closer than anyone. So I panicked. I pushed you away before the world could take you from me." Tears burned his eyes. "But I was wrong. Because pushing you away hurt more than anything the world could do. Loveth's own tears spilled over. Your empire means nothing without you. He pulled out the folder Gio had given him. Marcello and Tony? They were planning this for months. Buying loyalty, setting traps. They made me think I had to choose. But the real choice is whether I keep living afraid or start living for something that matters. He took her hands. You matter, Loveth. You matter more than territory, more than respect, more than any empire I could build. And I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry, for making you feel like you didn't. I was so scared, she whispered. Scared I'd finally been seen only to be invisible again. Never. He cupped her face. I see you. I'll always see you. And if you give me another chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you're worth everything. She searched his eyes. What about your organization? I'll handle them. Clean house if I have to. Start over. His smile was shaky. Maybe with a brilliant almost lawyer as my partner? Partner. In every sense. He pulled out a business card. His lawyers. I already called. Full ride to finish your degree. Georgetown or anywhere else you want. And when you're done, if you still want me. His voice broke. I'll be here. Waiting. Loveth laughed through her tears. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. He pressed his forehead to hers. I love you, Loveth Bennett. I don't know when it happened. Maybe when you whispered, don't sign that. Maybe when you trusted me with your story. Maybe the moment you walked into my life and refused to stay invisible. But I love you. And I'm not losing you again. I love you too, she whispered. Even though you're an idiot. Especially because I'm an idiot who knows when he's found something real. She kissed him. Soft, forgiving, full of promise. And in that moment, both of them understood. They'd found something rarer than power, more valuable than empires. They'd found each other. 6 months later. Loveth stood in Mariano's office, their office now, reviewing contracts. But this time, she wasn't the help. She was his legal consultant, his partner, his equal. Her name on the door beside his. Georgetown had welcomed her back with open arms and a full scholarship courtesy of an anonymous donor. Not so anonymous. Mariano had terrible poker face about it. She was finishing her degree remotely while working with him to restructure his entire operation. Legitimately. Mariano had made good on his promise. He'd cleaned house. Tony, Sal, and 3 other captains who'd sided with Marcello were gone. The organization was smaller now. Leaner, but loyal. And slowly, methodically, he was transitioning away from the shadows into legitimate business. Real estate. Security consulting. Investment. It would take years. But they had years. Hey! Mariano appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 coffee cups. Break time. She smiled. I'm almost done with the Harbor deal. Just need to. It can wait. He set the coffee down, pulled her to her feet. Come here. She went, let him wrap his arms around her. This had become their ritual. Stolen moments throughout the day where the empire paused and they just existed. I have something for you, he said. Another surprise? You're spoiling me. Good. He pulled out a small box. Her heart stopped. Mariano. Not that. Not yet. He grinned. Though I'm working up to it. She opened the box. Inside was a key. To what? Your law office. His smile was proud. 2 floors down. Space for 3 associates once you pass the bar. Your name already on the door. Bennett Legal Consulting. Tears blurred her vision. You didn't have to. I wanted to. You saved my empire. Let me help you build yours. She kissed him deeply, pouring 6 months of gratitude and love and wonder into it. When they broke apart, she whispered, "Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for saving me." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "In every way that matters." A knock interrupted them. Gio, smiling. "Boss, the contracts are ready." "Oh, and Loveth? Your brother's here. Says he's bringing dinner to celebrate your new office." "Isaac's here." She lit up. "Send him in." Mariano watched her rush to greet her brother, watched her face transform with joy, and felt something settle deep in his chest. Peace. For 15 years, he'd chased power, thinking it would fill the void his mother's death left. But power had only built walls. Loveth had torn them down. Shown him that real strength wasn't control. It was vulnerability. Wasn't isolation. It was connection. Wasn't taking. It was giving everything to someone who saw you, truly saw you, and chose you anyway. Later, after Isaac left and the city lights painted their office in gold, Loveth turned to him. "Do you ever regret it? Everything you gave up." "I gave up nothing." He pulled her close. "I gained everything." She rested her head on his chest, listened to his heartbeat. "What now? Now?" He tilted her face up, kissed her softly. "Now we build something new. Together. Your way and mine. Legal and real and ours." "Sounds perfect." "You sound perfect." She laughed. "Cheesy. You love it. I love you. Even when I'm an idiot? Especially then." Outside, the city hummed with its endless energy. Inside, 2 people who'd saved each other stood wrapped in the kind of love that doesn't happen often. The kind that sees through masks, redeems broken pieces, and proves that sometimes the most unlikely people find exactly what they need in each other. Loveth had walked into his life invisible, and shown him how to see. Mariano had pulled her from the shadows and shown her how to shine. And together, they built something more valuable than any empire. A future where they both belonged. Love has a way of finding us in the most unexpected places, through the most unlikely people. Mariano and Loveth's story reminds us that being truly seen, and choosing to see others, can change everything. Have you ever had someone see the real you when everyone else looked past you? Or been that person for someone else? Share your story below. Your words might inspire someone who needs to hear them today. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.